Greetings once again, Gordy Canuck, or if you prefer, the real name Gordon Causey, on my channel, Act One, a Canadian take on news events. I wanted to put out some content talking about the situation in Israel and specifically about the number of conservative minded individuals who find themselves aligning with the woke liberal left types. We have these liberal, extremist liberal types who don't know the difference between a man and a woman, uh, who lined up to get booster after booster after booster, who followed stickers on the floor. We all know the type of individual. And typically, these individuals are all in on the Palestinian cause and they hate the nation state of Israel. And yet, on the issue of Israel, a lot of conservative minded individuals are kind of switching camps, so to speak, and are joining in with the the woke. And I really I try to understand these things. How is it that uh, a group that is so wrong about everything, again, they can't tell the difference between a man and a woman, and are they right about, is theirs the proper opinion to have on Israel? Are they right about in their support of the what's typically called the Palestinian cause? So these are some thoughts that I shared to my Facebook timeline, and I titled my post, "Why Are Some Conservatives Falling for Woke Liberal Nonsense?" And normally, when I put out content like this, I don't start off talking about Jesus or my Christian faith. I save it till the end. And I do that on purpose. And if I'm going to be honest, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's a little bit sneaky on my part. And I suppose what I'm hoping is that I will attract some non believing eyes as I wax on, talk about whatever political issue is happening. And then at the end, I'll offer what I view as the only real solution, and that is faith in Jesus Christ. Well, for this content that I'm putting out now, I'm switching it up, and I'm going to start out with faith. And with one of my favorite passages in the Bible, it's in Luke chapter 14. And it actually contains my life verse, which is Luke 14:11, but I'll get to my life verse later. Now, in this gospel, in this account, chapter 14, Jesus takes note of how the men are seating themselves for a dinner that's being held. And they're fighting with one another, vying for the seats of honor. And Jesus tells his followers to behave differently. He tells his followers, he says that when you are invited to a wedding feast, that you are not to seek out the highest seat, because a more prominent individual might show up, and then you'll be shamed in front of everyone sitting at table when you're asked to move lower. My friend, this a more eminent person than you is here. Please go down lower, and you'll be shamed. Rather, he tells his followers to seek out the lowest seat. And in that way, perhaps you'll be asked to move higher, and then you'll be esteemed in front of everyone's eyes, in the eyes of everyone sitting at the table. And then comes verse after this exhortation to seek out the lowest seat, comes my life verse when Jesus says, "For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." Well, 2,000 years ago in first century Judea, life was obviously a little bit different than what it is like now. And a wedding feast back then was a massive event with tons of people in attendance, and it was a chance to find out where you rated in the pecking order of society. It's not like today, obviously, where we have social media sites like Facebook. Uh, the Facebook space and Instagram and TikTok and all the rest. In a fashion, I think it's kind of like a wedding feast, except it's a wedding feast that never ends. And a lot of people will use social media to elevate themselves in the eyes of their network of friends and followers. And one big way that this is manifested is by expressing opinions on contentious issues. And often there is an approved narrative, a side that is presented as right and good, and other sides that are deemed wrong or evil. So if you're a good person, you have to align yourself with the imposed narrative. If you don't, your friends and followers will jump on you. They might even unfriend you. You might even be blocked. And then you get deprived of that dopamine rush that we all get when our content is liked, shared, commented on. But should that be our aim? Should that be what we're pointed towards? To please the unthinking mob? I'm talking about the people who put diapers on their faces, followed arrowed stickers on the floor, down grocery aisles. Should we care what people think? The people who couldn't wait to take something that was dangerous and totally ineffective over and over again because they were told it was the good and caring thing to do. But it's not just things COVID. We're told what to think about First Nations issues, about gender, about climate, about political figures. It's an endless list. There's a program narrative around so many different issues. Uh, if you live in Canada or the United States, you've probably heard the land acknowledgement stuff that happens at schools and such. I mean, if there's a political event in Canada and if it's hosted by the left, by liberal minded people, it's almost a slam dunk that you're going to hear, we acknowledge and recognize that today's event is taking place on the ancestral lands of, etc. When we get into that, anyone who knows pre-colonial North American history, everyone who knows it is well aware that war was existing between this continent's First Nations peoples before Europeans arrived. There was crime, there was enslavement, all manner of human depravity. We're human beings, no matter where we come from, we are warlike and we are tribal. That is what we do. And again, doesn't matter where your ancestors came from. And that brings up another point about humanity, our nomadic nature. We love to move, we love to conquer new lands, to conquer other peoples. That's also true of, again, North America's First Nations peoples. If anthropologists are right about that Bering Strait, the land bridge that brought Asians over to this continent. That saying, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, it probably goes back a lot further than modern day suburban lawn care. But I do think I understand the rationale behind woke leftist types feigning as though they're full of guilt over the supposed crimes of their ancestors. It is used for social credit in the marketplace of ideas. It's a cost free way to pretend you're good and righteous, even though you're not. I'm not. So, getting back to Luke 14, that passage I just related at the start, it's a way to seek out the highest seat, the seat that Jesus tells his followers that we are to shun and that we are rather to seek out. We're to go after that lowest seat. So, what I don't understand is how some who call themselves conservatives fall for this garbage. Not in the context of North America, though. No. Uh, Conservatives recognize the stupidity of denigrating whiteness as if it's some form of original sin or whatever. But if it's Israel being talked about, then some conservatives go full retard and join in with the woke left types calling for boycotts, this boycott, divest, and I forget, sanction, DDS, and they side with the double-digit IQ types like Queers for Palestine, those idiots. Like being queer for Palestine is the same as being a chicken promoting Swiss chalet. Um, and I take a lot of flack over my support for Israel. And all I can say is, oh well. And I do acknowledge, I recognize that Israel is far from perfect. It's every bit as bad as Canada or the United States. But nobody, hardly anyone, would be celebrating an event like October 7th if it happened on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. Um, Now, there are a lot of people who think there is some commonality between October 7th and 9/11. And I think, genuinely, I believe there is a lot of merit to that point of view. But those like myself who go down the 9/11 conspiracy rabbit holes, we don't advocate hatred toward Americans and the United States writ large, but we do it with, well, some do it with Israelis. Uh, but then the United States, it's not a Christian country, although it was founded on Judeo Christian values and ideology. Israel, by contrast, was established 1948-49 as a Jewish nation state. And a lot of people hate Jews and all things Jewish. So use when the United States does things that are forgiven, Israel is held to a much different standard. And comparing the United States and Israel, it ultimately breaks down. Doesn't work too well because the histories have more differences than similarities. I mean, pre-colonial America had a large indigenous population, and that population was overwhelmed and ultimately subjugated over decades, over centuries. And you contrast that the land that is modern day Israel, uh, you go back to the 1800s, and it was incredibly sparsely populated. Even when Jews first started to come back at the end of the 1800s, at the end of the 19th century, it was very sparsely populated. Uh, and Jews started moving in mostly from Europe. They came from other countries of the world too, but it was mostly Europe. And then Arabians started moving in as well. So, in terms of Israel, we're dealing with two immigrant or colonial populations. We have the Jews, mostly European, and Islamic Arabians. One group of newcomers against another group of newcomers, and both trying to present themselves as we're the indigenous group. Uh, and there's an old saying, I'm going to wrap it up, that goes, shoot them all and let God sort them out. Well, we don't have to shoot them. They're shooting at each other, and they have been for over 100 years now, basically since the Ottoman Empire ended and Ottomans were no longer ruling over this contested little piece of real estate. But ultimately, God will sort them out. God is going to sort all of us out. And we are all going to be found wanting. We're all going to come up short. Every one of us will be judged, and we will all have been found to have missed the mark. No matter what your social media network thinks about you, you can't say, oh, but my Facebook friends love me. Here to tell you, God loves you too. And God knows the truth. And the truth is that all our good deeds are nothing but filthy rags to Him. That's why, in His love, God took on human form and paid the penalty for us on that cross. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I love comments, so you're welcome to put your thoughts down below. And like, share, subscribe. You know the normal face or the normal YouTube stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. I probably will be doing a live stream Saturday night. That's my goal, but I make no promises. Life is busy. So thank you for watching Act 1, and we'll see you again, I hope. God bless.